All right, yo, what up, everybody? ForceofPhil here up on the show. Today, we're going to be playing some pre-modern, and I have been sort of addicted to trying to make Parfait work ever since land tax got banned. Now, my origin story in the format, for those of you who haven't heard it yet, is I saw Legacy was going to shit, and I saw land tax scroll rack in pre-modern, and everybody was like, yo, this is your jam fill, scroll rack, land tax. I mean, this is like a countertop of a yesteryear. You got to get in. And I was like, okay, this seems sweet. And then I started watching games, and I was like, oh, this is my jam. And then I watched more games, and I was like, oh, this is my identity. And so I ordered my land taxes. And then while my land taxes were in the mail before they got to my mailbox, land tax was banned. So I never actually got to cast land tax in the format. However, I was still addicted to the idea of being able to scroll rack for your whole library and then guys blessing everything back. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to like still be doing that as much as possible. And then I found my way, and now I've been sort of like addicted to intuition piles with guys blessing and free spells like multiple foils and multiple gushes, and then intuition becomes gush or foil or Tormod's crypt or whatever. Essentially making that intuition is a 3-mana flex spell that says counter target spell, draw 4 cards, wasteland your land, remove your graveyard, just making it as much as like what Karn, the great creator, is in Legacy, where it's just like 4 mana and then you tutor for whatever it is that you want, and then it is 4 mana, any of whatever that is. That's what I've been trying to build in intuition piles recently. But SWB at my local has just been crushing with Parfait, and it is a man after mine own heart. And he most recently was crushing with a build where he went away from accumulated knowledges and towards Sylvan Library. Now, Sylvan Library, obviously very good. We love Sylvan Library with Ancestors Chosen and our Oath of Druids package. And he's been testing out a bunch of different things, like his last build, he was on 2 Phyrexian Furnace, or at least the last one that I saw. He was on 2 Phyrexian Furnace. If you want to check out a deeper dive on the previous build, we've done that as an episode on Dirtles, and then we also have a sideboard guide in our Patreon at Eternal Dirtles, patreon.com/Eternal Dirtles, where we essentially like put our spin on what SWB was doing, and we talked about how we would sideboard and stuff. Man's a genius. Okay, so for his most recent build, he had 2 Phyrexian Furnace, and then he pivoted into Phyrexian Dreadnought to like win games out of nowhere. Your opponent's not necessarily going to expect it. So previously he was on Meddling Mage and Call of the Herd, which was his pivot plan for any time Oath of Druids didn't work. Essentially, you just put a clock on him, like you're disruptive and you put a fast clock on him. And I think he went even harder into that by moving towards Stifle Knot, and that was also posing great results for him, because why not go into the best deck? I was thinking to myself, one thing that I've been thinking about for a long time is, what if you wanted more than 4 Swords to Plowshares in a deck that doesn't, like, what I found is I really don't like Wrath of God in the format, because I found that it's very slow, and I found that there's a lot of pressure when you're playing a Gush deck. Anytime I'm playing Gush, I just want to be a 5-color mono islands deck. I want a mana base that's only islands, and then I want to play all the colors necessary. And the ways that you do that is you get Mox Diamond and stuff, and then you make some concessions in your mana base. But then any of the lands that aren't islands that would sit on the table would always just be on the table, and then you couldn't get them off for when I was trying to do like Oath of Lieges and stuff like that. It's been a process. But what I thought about was both of the builds that SWB has been working on has Oath of Druids in the main, and then a pivot plan outside of Oath of Druids in the board. And I'm like, well, Oath of Druids is the cracked spell here, right? And one thing that I've been wanting to do, thinking about more than 4 Swords to Plowshares, is this card. I've been wanting to use Funeral Pyre, which is not new technology. I know people have tried Funeral Pyre with Oath of Druids before. But what I like about Funeral Pyre is that against the decks that I want more than 4 Swords to Plowshares against on turn 1, be it Goblin Lackey or Jackal Pup or what have you, what I like about this is that even though I'm showing some restraint, I'm not going to the full 4 Windswept Heath. But with Funeral Pyre, Windswept Heath, if you go Windswept Heath on turn 1 with Funeral Pyre, you always have a 1/1, so you just remove your own fetch land, which is not necessarily something that you want to shuffle back in with Gaia's Blessing anyway, and then it gives you the 1/1 to block. That's really good utility early, and then with any fetch land, be it Flooded Strand or Windswept Heath, you always have that on. You'll have that on 1, which is pretty good opening slate if it's doing a Swords to Plowshare impression for what you needed to do. But the other thing I like about it, of course, is that it turns on your Oath of Druids against decks that otherwise wouldn't want to turn Oath of Druids on, or decks that like remove their own creature so that Oath of Druids doesn't have text. And if they do that, then these cards look really bad. Now, one thing that I think that this is really interesting because, A, it's graveyard removal, right? We want more graveyard hate. He was playing 2 Phyrexian Furnace in the main, and he had this cool pattern of 3 Oath of Druids, 3 Sylvan Libraries, 3 Scroll Rack, and then the one of Enlightened Tutor as the 4th copy of all of those things. But then he had 2 Phyrexian Furnace. And I was like, well, if we do a split here on 1 Phyrexian Furnace and 1 Funeral Pyre, then at least somewhere in our deck, which we should see the majority of, against the decks that don't turn on Oath of Druids, at instant speed, we can just turn on our Oath of Druids and then flip into one of our key creatures. And if we're against a deck that doesn't have any creatures in it, then, you know, we just have to be in a position to ensure that, like, we don't get our Shard Phoenix exiled from the graveyard. And then eventually we can just deterministically show that we're going to have infinite Shard Phoenixes because we do have 3 red sources in our deck. And then we have a way to shuffle back into the deck if anything were to happen to them. And so we always will have Shard Phoenix because we can just sack it in response to a Source to Plowshare, so we can always have a Shard Phoenix. That's awesome. But when Shard Phoenix is good, it's your best spell, right? This is your Wrath of God. Like, if you can Oath of Druids into a Shard Phoenix against Elves or against any of the other creature decks, this is it. And there's this time where it's like, okay, well, you have the 50-50 shot. If you don't know where either of your big creatures are with your Oath of Druids against the creature decks, like, yes, if you gain a bajillion life, that's pretty good, but it doesn't disrupt them in any way, where Shard Phoenix can. And so what I'm thinking was, man, you really want to hit Shard Phoenix in the decks where you want Shard Phoenix. And so I was like, why don't we just play a Shard Phoenix on the board? And that way, in the decks where we really want Shard Phoenix, we can just remove the Ancestor's Chosen, play a second Shard Phoenix, and now we're guaranteed to hit a Shard Phoenix. The other side of that is once I got to that point, I was like, well, if I want this to help my Oath of Druids, and then I want more of these to help my Oath of Druids, why don't we just play the 4th Oath of Druids in the board, be the Oath of Druids deck post board, even when they are prepared for it, and then just lean harder with more Funeral Pyre as more of our graveyard hate to ensure that Oath of Druids is on against everything. And then we bring the Funeral Pyres in against the stuff that Oath of Druids otherwise wouldn't be very strong against. Think your Replenishes and stuff like that. So and then, you know, there's some other utility. Like, he had 2 Phyrexian Furnace, and I want to respect the game, so I'm playing a second Phyrexian Furnace. I also really enjoy this against opposing guys, blessing decks anyway. I think this is one of the most underrated cards in the format, even though it does see play. I don't think it sees enough for how good it is. Then I'm playing additional disenchants because, of course, like, if you're playing against opposing Sylvan Library decks, that's typically the only thing that matters, and we're not pressuring their life total all that hard if we're not doing the pivot plan like SWB was doing, where we're beating down. So I have additional disenchants. I'm doing that rather than Seal of Cleansing because if the opposing players, if they have stifles and stuff like that, I'd rather just not walk into it post board if we know that we want it for things like Sylvan Library or Enchantress, stuff like that. And then I'm adding the Ray of Revelation because against the decks that are, you know, all of the good enchantments, whether it's Sylvan Library or Survival of the Fittest, against anything Enchantress, like, we're happy to have this. More Funeral Pyres to talk about the plan that I talked about, and then this was the pivot. This, to me, was the cool pivot for Oath of Druids, because if we have Oath of Druids, then we fight over that, and then we have this Funeral Pyre dance over Oath of Druids, and then we're spending our resources fighting over our Oath of Druids, which is the most powerful thing going on. But we can flip into a Gigapede, or we can just cast a Gigapede. And then in the matchups where they're trying to, like, oh, we got to counter the Gigapede, whatever, I'll pick it back up. Oh, it's in play, you can't source it. Oh, you want to wrath it, whatever, I'll pick it back up. Like, Gigapede is the out against those decks where Oath of Druids otherwise wouldn't be good. So I'm interested in trying out Gigapede and then just beating down that way. And at worst, if they deal with the Oath of Druids, or we spend the early game dealing with Oath of Druids, we'll just cast it on 5 mana. And then we're good to go. And then, of course, we got Meddling Mage for the obvious play. So thank you, Chris Pakula. So the changes that I made to the deck, other than the sideboard from where we started out, was he had SWB had a Travis Ruins and a Gemstone Man. I traded those for 2 more Windswept Heaths for this Funeral Pyre plan against the aggro decks. That is cutting both. That is cutting a blue source, like 2 blue sources, which might come up regarding, like, how our counterspells operate. Like, our counterspells are significantly weaker by cutting those 2 blue sources to help facilitate this plan. So now we're only on 12, 16 blue sources with Mox Diamond. But it's, you know, do the math on the minus there because you need both a blue source and then -1 for the land. So we'll see if Counterspell now becomes a little bit more load bearing with worse mana, but that's something that we're willing to experiment with. So this is Parfait leaning into Oath of Druids with an Oath of Druids. We're Oath of Druids main, and we pivot harder into it in the board. Let's get into it. This is Parfait.
Finding the right high-end cards for legacy, vintage, pre-modern, or old-school Magic can be challenging. That's where friends 3-for-1 trading come in.
3-for-1 Trading is one of Europe's top Magic the Gathering retailers with an incredible selection of premium singles, sealed product, and even full sets, all available with free, fast, and secure worldwide shipping.
They add fresh inventory every Wednesday with weekly deals and discounts. So whether you're hunting for that elusive piece of power, a legacy staple, or something spicy for your collection, they've got you covered.
First high-end orders over $500 or 500 euros, use the code EDFREE to get free worldwide shipping.
Check them out now at the number 3, the number 4, the number 1.gg/ED. That link takes you right to the shop and helps support the channel.
Huge thanks to 3for1 Trading for supporting the Legacy community. Now back to the show.
All right, we're here against T-Buns for round 1. So we got a hand. We're missing green mana, but that's okay. We do have all of our action. We do have this Ancestor Chosen, which is effectively a mulligan, but we do have answers to everything we want. We're going to hit our land drops, but we don't actually have any play. It's a pretty reactive hand. I'd like to open on some sort of action, and this is already a mulligan until we find a scroll rack. We don't have action for this. This is a tricky one. I mean, like, we have what we want, and we want this game to go long. I think this is probably a keep in that, like, we have an answer for a deck against a creature. We have a deck answer for our survival of the fittest. I want to say this is a keep. We have a lot of good action off the top. Another island is excellent for us. Counter spells are going to be loaded here, but that's okay for now. And we're on the draw. Yeah, I think we'll keep this on the draw. That could be wrong, but I'll be interested to see what you guys think on that one. What do you think about this hand? This one might be one that I'm supposed to send back because the Ancestor Chosen, which makes it a freebie. But I think when you open the correct action with a couple land drops on the draw, Chivalry, so probably the Tinker deck. Nope. Blue, red, Lavamancer. I've always wondered if Burn could play like draw spells just to like actually give them enough fuel to cross the line. Now that mono red has been struggling a bit, you know, just add some card draw. It's like, what if you just what if adding card draw, like, I don't know, top end at Factor Fiction and flipped over a bunch of burn spells? Figure out that split. You're taking 9, idiot. All right, so I think with this drawing 2 Swords to Plowshares, I think we can burn one on this Grim Lavamancer, but we'll see what they do. Given that we don't have a Wrath of God outside of Shard Phoenix in this deck, I'm not opposed to spending these types of resources early on stuff like this. I am going to take this hit because Chivalry Grim Lavamancer isn't really telling me as much as I'd like to know. I don't know if there's going to be a more critical target that I would like to have follow up. And if they're blue, okay, so they're Grixis. So if they're Grixis Brewing, but it's also like I would like to know each opponent discards a card. I think that's a good question. One could argue that it's just this Ancestor Chosen that's sitting in our hand anyway. What are our draws? I don't think we have any plays really next turn because we need to both find a green source and all of our action is green. If we slam a scroll rack, that's great, but a scroll rack isn't going to help us against... A scroll rack with Ancestor Chosen isn't going to help us until we have an Oath, so I think I'm okay dumping that. I would like to be mana efficient here. We'll get rid of this guy. We have to assume that if they're on these types of dopers that we're going to be playing against Cabal Therapy. And so it's possible that we need to be correctly thinking about if they go Cabal Therapy, now that we've shown them guys Ancestors Chosen, that they'll probably name Oath of Druids because they see we don't have green mana. And Oath of Druids would be bad for them. But we're on a brew here, so I'm going to let this hit because I want to maintain an answer to this land if they decide to level it up. They're on 4 cards, and they're not taking any game action. We have to pass here. Hopefully we draw a land. That's close. I am going to cycle this now. We don't have any other plays, and I would like to ensure that we hit our land drop. So it's not a May to exile a card from a graveyard, so I'll exile this fetch. Portent in it, but at least we'll be able to fix next turn. Missing our land drop isn't good, but that might just be have been a result of a bad mulligan or a lack thereof a mulligan. I also don't exactly know what they're doing other than valuing. So fortunately for us, though, even though we're taking some beats here, we'll be able to recover that. Once we get green mana, we'll be able to shuffle this guy's Ancestor Chosen back in. Also, if this is their plan, a 2/2 flyer is actually going to be pretty sweet. They might be sitting on removal dead in their hand right now to some extent. We do have a removal spell. Once we follow up, we're going to portent. Like I feel like we're in a pretty reasonable position here. So not drawing the land, we're going to feel the portent here of potentially finding a land, but then not actually being able to cast it. Okay, so it looks like we do have Island, and then we can go Gush Diamond into Get In, and that's how we can get back into this game. So we are going to keep, because they're a discard deck, I think it is best to put the get-in on top, because the get-in is a plan, but it's the least important for us, because that's a Haymaker, and the other two are going to help us actually develop to be able to play spells. But if we draw Island and then draw Mox Diamond, we can at least slam this Sylvan Library and start getting to work. So let's do that. We're not going to shuffle. And then, yeah, so they're just sitting on removal spells, so they're going to get a little cheeky with it. So if they spend their turn aggroing right now, I think there's an argument for them, like, we just take their mana if they want to go Fairy Conclave the next couple of turns just to beat down. I think that's okay. However, if they're a Bolt deck, like, I don't know how much burn they necessarily on. It's Brewer's advantage on their side. They're one Bolt in, but there is the possibility that, if we get too low, that we could get burned out, and that's, somewhat scary. They're going to ice the Swords to Plowshares, which is clever, but if they spend that doing Fairy Conclave, I think I'm okay spending this now. And then the next turn, we're just going to, if they tap out here, hopefully it's nothing too crazy. An Infiltrator, that's pretty good. Arguable, I should have just floated white, but then they just move phases, so that wouldn't have made a difference. But if we nuke 5 lands right now, we're cutting ourselves from a mana on our own, but this Mox Diamond is going to do work for us. So we'll float 2. Let's Gush, cast this, pitch one of these islands, send them back to the Stone Age on this Armageddon. And so now they have John Finkel in play. But we're sitting here with a ton of action, Gushgeddon doing its thing. I actually think now there's an interesting argument for, do we Gaia's Blessing here to put Swords to Plowshares back into the deck, because that's actually the critical juncture here. And I think, like, we can put the Ancestor Chosen, the Swords to Plowshares back in, and that's actually pretty good as we start to rebuild. And I'd also like to be able to draw another land. There's argument for Sylvan Library. There's argument for just pitch this and then do that. But I'm going to get some Gaia's Blessing action going on right now. So we'll put back swords, put back Ancestors Chosen. Putting back Ancestors Chosen might also be, it might be too early for that. Like, I might, should be shuffling back in some lands, since that's the actual thing that I want to draw. It's part of why I love this deck. There's so many micro decisions that can be made there. Like, am I supposed to put back 2 lands into Swords to Plowshares because I want to hit my land drop next turn? Like, that, there's totally, like, reasonable argument for that, So they're going to duress. Presumably they're going to take Portent, which is going to filter out. They might take the Counterspell, though, since it's up. But if we're holding up Counterspell against the Shadowblade Infiltrator, I think they're going to be happy with that. Drawing the second Sylvan Library sort of obsoletes that plan. I don't think they're going to have any targets for Disenchant. So it's probably between the 2 blue cards. I guess there's an argument if they're really concerned about, like, being able to stay ahead, they can take Mox Diamond. But yeah, it seems like Counterspell is the best one. There's a lot of options there, but, like, the other ones are probably too cute. It's Portent or Counterspell. If we hit a land drop there and then we get to go Portent plus hold up, or we would get to hold up Counterspell and do something else, like, that could be dangerous for them. I think Counterspell is the safest pick going along, especially as they try to rebuild. But it's also okay, because I don't think we were planning on holding open. So I'm going to run out of Sylvan Library. They know about that. I also want to be able to dig 3 cards deep on our turn. Portent would do the same thing. But Portent is a shuffle. One thing that is pretty nice, though, is even though this John Finkel has been doing work for them to recover from this Armageddon, they're still on only 2 cards. We're going to be at 5. They've gone through 2 bolts. So we're certainly still on the back foot. But if we just find a Oath of Druids off the top here, we're going to flip into one of our baddies, and both of them will be able to... Well, this one I guess Fear. So I guess we're in that 50-50 space where we need we would need the Ancestors Chosen over... So I think in this spot, you actually probably take the Scroll Rack. But I could see an argument for just taking the Portent. Yeah, take the Scroll Rack. And there's probably rationale that last turn, I run out the Scroll Rack and then untap, spend mana, flip back my whole hand. Here they've drawn Mono Duresses, which is fine. We're not in a position where our hand is the relevant thing. We have to find our outs, none of which are in our hand. They're taking ways for us to find our outs. We would like to use Sylvan Library's ability. Okay, so we don't want this Shard Phoenix. We're going to put that on top. We're going to put back Island because we can't afford it right now. And we want this shuffle, so we'll play this. I think we want to get our planes off of this because we have more stuff that we can cast in white. And particularly if we draw the Enlightened Tutor off of our on our draw step, then we can shuffle between Sylvan libraries to see more cards. And in that case, we would want a second white source so we can find Enlightened Tutor plus Swords to Plowshares to deal with the Shadow Mage's Infiltrator, or a second white source for Funeral Pyre to get on the board. I keep forgetting that this thing has fear, so it's not like we'll be able to block anyway. But now we're in, bolt space. So we got to be mindful of that if they find their third bolt in their top 20-ish cards. So this is a game where, like, I think I just probably should have mulliganed. Like, if we end up, we would like to use this ability. Oath of Druids is pretty good there. You'll see the same too. All right, so Oath of Druids is on the board. Assuming that they don't have a counterspell, they do not. So we have to fade a burn spell here, which, is probably not going to happen. They're probably just going to... They've not missed a land drop since getting Armageddon, so I can see a Fact or Fiction happening right now. Nope, they just passed with 4 mana. That's pretty good for us. We needed to blank there. So we're going to go to 2. That turns on both Fire now is also a kill. They're showing action and they're not spending red. That's probably bad news for us. Playing against Bruise is sweet, but it also makes me go, I'm unsure of... Okay, so they're just casting probably a second. Yeah, Prophetic Bolt. Okay, so figured that any burn spell was going to be it, and we weren't going to be close. So that I think I should have just mulled again that opening hand. We kind of didn't have any agency that game, which is exactly the opposite of what Parfait should be doing. So this is a spot where, like, Shard Phoenix can be good against... like, Shard Phoenix is good against, like, the rats and the Lavamancers and stuff. Certainly just, like, fully outplayed that game. I'm just, like, also not very good at this game. You guys got to give me some a little bit of freebie on that. Like, I'm also bad, but we are going to lean into our Oath of Druid sideboard plan here. I feel like against the deck of, like, I always hate counterspells against the duress decks. Like, it always goes under, always. And if you're ever on the play and you hold up counterspell and they just go duress, you're just compelled to counterspell it anyway. And I find that, like, the way to beat the discard decks is to just outcard them, rather than try and counter spells. I get that they have some critical stuff that we would care about, and it's possible that, like, I'm looking at it incorrectly, but I just find that the combination of, like, wanting to hold up your mana, effectively porting yourself, they're going to duress and clear the way to try and 2-spell in the same turn, and it's just giving them, like, it means that they just have the implicit initiative to be able to decide whatever it is that they want to do, and I don't like that. So I could see a world where those comes out, but also I don't know if they're on Grixis. Like, what are they boarding in? Like, should we keep the Seal of Cleansing in just as a bullet, because they could board into something, but they seem more like spell based, and I'll just take the loss if that's what happens. Which means that these can come back into some amount. I don't know if Meddling Mage naming anything is worthwhile. I also don't want to give them an Oath of Druids target. I could see Funeral Pyres aren't the worst. I don't know if they're doing anything with their graveyard that they showed us, so Funeral Pyre is fine there. Is there a critical spell that we're going to want to foil? Probably not. So, not trying to go down on cards against the duress decks. I could see another Gaia's Blessing mattering, though, as they're probably bringing in their graveyard hate, because they did see our own Gaia's Blessings. And then from here, what is the plan? I don't think it's Meddling Mage. This is just sweet value, and we like sweet value. We're going in like this, fam. Not sure if it's right, not sure what their board plan is. But we set out to do something, so we're going to do it. And here we have it's on the play with no action. How do you actually operate this hand, Mox Diamond? Like, they're bringing in artifact hate, there's no doubt. Do you just Oath of Druids now, and then if they do something with the Oath of Druids trigger on a stack, you Funeral Pyre them? Do we just go all in right away against a duress deck? We came here, we're going to do it for science. 2 aggro, almost certainly. But we came here to try stuff for science. Get at me in the comments for how bad this line is. It's probably just a mulligan. It almost certainly was just mulligan. All right. All right, all right, all right. Sorry, T-Buns, not giving you the best testing here. There it is. And it's done. This is why I can't win with Parfait, because I can't look at an opening hand and just mulligan. I have to live in Magical Christmas Land where my opponent just plays draw, go, pass, and the game is over. Yeah, they're just going to ice the diamond. Sweet. I mean, do we want to do anything with it? Probably not. We're just in the holding room right now. Nope. Just also fucking misclicked through it. All right. All right. I'm gonna call that one. Do we want to play this out now that I just misclicked? All right, we'll play it out. We'll play it out. We do have a plan still, even though I botched it. It's not like we were gonna use this mana anyway, unless they cast the creature. In which case, we wouldn't have Swords to Plowshare it anyway, because we would have just Druidsed it. So it would Funeral Pyre. We would have been able to Funeral Pyre. But now that like there's this, they take the Oath of Druids. Like, all right. I mean, all right. That sucks, but that's also, you know, I don't know, fam. I don't know. I'm just trying to give you guys some sweet content, and I can't even click a button correctly. Feels bad. Feels real bad. All right, but the rest, what do they take? Doesn't matter. You're so far ahead, it's irrelevant. Take the Guy's Blessing. All right, so they're not concerned about getting oathed. Yeah, play some standstill, bro. You got that. This game was well over before you did that because of my poor mulligans and shenanigans that way. This is bad, but it's also not getting any better because I time walked myself, took a bad mulligan, and nothing I think here is irrelevant. We're just gonna mouth breather our way through this one by casting Oath of Druids. Hopefully they don't have a second removal spell in the 9 cards they have in hand, and without them taking the Funeral Pyre. But now at least they can cast creatures. But I don't think any of that's relevant. Like, we're not coming back to this. I'm just gonna keep down talking this until we can steal this game, maybe, and then be able to pick myself up from there. But until then, all these punts clearly not working. I'm just gonna talk it down, try and make myself feel better from those punts. So they gave us a creature. Why would you give us a creature? Is it just Enlightened Tutor? Because if they bolt the creature, I still want to have an answer. But then if they remove this and then I want an answer, I think Enlightened Tutors, it's probably Enlightened Tutor. I don't want to go down more cards. But hey, respect. They were like, I came here to Ravenous Rats, and they Ravenous Rats. A lot of clicks for Oath of Druid to work. Okay, 13 cards. This would matter. In this deck, you can't order, but we are going to shuffle. So, or graveyard order matters against Phyrexian Furnaces and stuff like that. But ideally, we're just going to be able to shuffle our deck. Or shuffle the cards we want back into our deck, so it's not relevant there. All right, so going like this. I'm going to run out the Scroll Rack. They're going to fight over it. That's fine. It's not like we have... it's not like I would know what to do with the Scroll Rack anyway. So, joke's on you, T-Buns. Bloodstained Mire, they're going to have a way to deal with this guy. This is not the... Oh, Furnace. Furnace is going to be able to stop our Gigapede plan, but we did leave in the Seal of Cleansing, if I remember correctly, as an out. No, we took the Seal of Cleansing out. We took out all the disenchants. I'm bad at this game. Whew. Whew. Man, you play one game and realize, like, how ineffective you are. Okay, so... Oh, they're just going to spend it now getting rid of the Ancestor Chosen. Okay, that's nice for us. You can see, you can absolutely see how, like, way more efficiently they've used their mana, how better they've used their cards, like, just across every axis. We have been getting bodied. I'm going to let them make a choice because I don't know what choice to make because I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, just getting absolutely clowned at every axis here. But we are going to get the Gigapede, and they just took out the Phyrexian Furnace. I presume that they're going to take the Swords to Plowshares because Funeral Pyre, I imagine, doesn't really do much against them. No, they're just going to take the second Oath. So they must have a plan for Oath. There's no way with the way that they've been playing that they don't have a plan for Oath post-board, like, unless they just chose to, like, dodge it in the meta, but that probably would be strange because it is a power outlier, even if it's not all that popular. Did we flip the Guy's Blessing? We did, so they're going to go back in. Now we got a Shroud Body on the board. I'm not going to actually... They know about a Swords to Plowshares and the Funeral Pyre. I'm not going to take any game actions here. Like, we now have a ton of life. This would be able to trade for the rats, which I'm more inclined to do. But now that we draw, I would have been inclined to do because we would just discard and pick this back up, maybe. I don't know. I actually don't know what I'm talking about. I would have just Swords the Wrath. Let's be real. Let's be honest with ourselves. I certainly don't know how to do that all that well, but we're working on it, man. We're working on it. You know, they're gonna play a Diabolic Edict or something. Diabolic Edict, I actually think, is better in this format than people give it credit for because it's really good against Opalescent and stuff, and it's also really nice to have like against, you know, Phyrexian Dreadnought or Terrorboard. So I can appreciate that. They know we're doing this. This is gonna let them flip into a creature as well. But we don't know what else is in their deck other than John Finkel and Grim Lavamancer. I presume Lavamancer was cut. Catch another annul here with this thing before we attack. So I assume the Grim Lavamancer was cut, but they certainly kept in the John Finkels. So if they flip into a John Finkel, then we have another source of Plowshares here. Which is why I was willing to spend on the Ravenous Rats. Getting in with a Gigapede is sweet, though. I bought these thinking that, like, at some point we would do something exactly like this for the deck, which was awesome, you know? So here they're trading, and I'm okay to be in this holding pattern because we can Funeral Pyre to just get back the Ancestors Chosen, and then potentially, like, these are the kind of loops that we enjoy being in. So Oath of Druids trigger on the stack if I don't want to waste this fetch on the Sylvan Library. For the Sylvan Library, this Stone Rains them, and we can Funeral Pyre, probably the Phyrexian Furnace out of their graveyard just in case. But we can Funeral Pyre to trigger the Sylvan Library if they don't play a creature, and then, you know, get back the Ancestors Chosen, and now we're just off to the races with our Sylvan Library. So we're seeing some amount of quality action here with the sideboard pivot here, or at least with the Funeral Pyre tech. But they know about Funeral Pyre, so I'm not sure if it's a line that they're not considering or if they're about to like duress plus removal spell. They still have 5 cards in hand, so they're not like, you know, wasting their time. So they're giving us a creature here, so I don't have to use this Funeral Pyre, which is pretty nice. They don't know about the second source, the Plowshares. So I'm gonna see what we flip into before. So Gigapede. Let's put Gigapede on the bottom because I want that to get shuffled back in. So did we hit the all-important Gaia's Blessing? We hit all 3 of them. We're going to yield to all. Okay, get-in's not bad. I forgot the Ancestor Chosen was exiled, by the way, so it was just flipping back in. We would like to use Sylvan Library's ability. We're going to pay 8 in the dark. So pay 4. Got all this life now. What do we do here? So we could draw into Counterspell to protect. I mean, if they're playing a tech counterspell, I could just play around Mana Leak. All right, so let's just play around Mana Leak, make sure that they can't get back into this. And then I think we're okay passing here because I want to hold. I don't want to use this fetch because Sylvan Library, even though you know I'm going to pay 8 in the blind always. Like, we didn't come here to not pay 8. But I will trigger. I will exile something to trigger and put Funeral Pyre to put the thing back into play. There is some amount of tension between Funeral Pyre and Gigapede where it can like block the Gigapede, which is not something that I was fully contemplating, like of when that would matter so much. But it's possible that Gigapede is just like actually not the best because of that, or it's possible that we like do something to like level up the Gigapede, or we do something where we find something better than Gigapede in the format. Like Gigapede, like I might be getting too cute off of this Funeral Pyre tech that I just find to be so endearing, because of its flex with. Okay, good to know. So Oath of Druids doesn't always put a trigger on the stack. At the beginning of each part, yeah. Okay, I thought this was always a trigger that goes on the stack and then it checks on resolution. Like if you can't choose a player who controls more creatures than you, then it just won't go on the stack. But that's good to know. Okay. So drawing Counterspell is great. We would like to use this ability. We'll put this on top. Pay 4 life on this one. Play a land. It's possible that I should have fetched an or paid 8 for 2 lands in Armageddon, but they're on 5 lands. Yeah, that was probably a bad play on my part. I should have just paid 8, fetched Armageddon, and then untapped, and then we're back in it, and we just, you know, absolutely stone ran them. But at the same time, like, maybe we're still just there. You know? Like, maybe I just played this really badly, but, like, we still do it, even though it was bad, because it's just the best thing to do. Like, just because we punted once doesn't mean that we should punt a second time in the same turn. So this is, now that we know that like there's the tension between this and the Gigapede, now I'm in the market for just shuffling the graveyard back in, of course. I'm going to kill their own guy. Okay. Library rack. What do we want to do? Do we care about drawing rack? Do we want the shuffle? Do we pay? I don't think we need the rack right now, so we'll put on top. I do like having a swords. We're going to choose me. We're going to put back. I think we just put back some lands here. I guess Funeral Pyre is also our way to get stuff back on, so let's do that. Nice. So, punted, and punted some more, and Parfait can carry. We're not over yet. They're still, they have played 2 lands post Armageddon, so they're still live. They're also 3.5 minutes ahead on clock because I've been durdling. Goes to show you that like the actual pivot shouldn't be fucking Gigapede. It should just be a Chroma. So I'm gonna put these on top because I'm just gonna play this and hold up Counterspell and then move on. I'm not gonna get too cute there. Pretty good. Man, getting ain't it. Just they've drawn enough. Hitting their land drops. I think we're okay to sit. We can trick ourselves into thinking that we should be playing the game, but the rule with Parfait is neither of us should be playing the game. There is no game to be played. Well, I mean, if you're going to start burning me out, then maybe we have to have a conversation. I'm not going to spend Counterspell on the Bolt Day, though. Our life is what we have now without the Ancestors Chosen in the deck. We cannot gain any more life. And I, as an idiot, was like, I gotta pay 8. We always pay 8. Who amongst us wouldn't have paid 8? All right, we don't need this. And I think for right now, we also don't need that. Putting back the action. Funeral Pyre is pretty good. Let's check out ourselves here. Gigapede, Enlightened Tutor, Portent. I don't think any of those are what we're looking for. You might be asking yourself, Phil, what are you looking for? It's a good question. The old Funeral Pyre Swords to Plowshares combo to turn on this Oath, am I right? I'm really surprised though. In my head with Funeral Pyre, I was like, oh yeah, you can be in this spot, and then Oath of Druids will always put a trigger on the stack that you can then respond to with Funeral Pyre because it is a check on resolution. It has the at the beginning of each player's copy, that player chooses that target player. So like I always thought, you know, it just goes on. And if you can't choose a player with more, but it looks like we have to wait a turn. So keeping the white source, that way we can get a second. We can go both Funeral Pyre and then swords if they play something. We can swords it. I'm also I don't know. I'm sort of now just waffling around. It's tough to commentate when there's like deep lines and I'm not exactly sure what I'm playing around here other than like burn spells. It's also reasonable that like I'm feeling the pressure of the clock here being behind by 3 minutes. And you know, with Sylvan Library, like we are ahead in this game and I can just like dig to counter spells. That way I can like really support this stuff. If we were moving with faster dexterity, I could see a world where you like you should not be moving in this spot because Sylvan Library is the thing that is bringing you ahead and you control the board with Oath of Druids. So you know, like this is an aggressive line that's giving them options that like sort of is going to be, that can cut us a bit. Return all green permanents. It's pretty good. They'll get a spirit. We'll untap. I'm going to fetch here. I know there's an island on top, but we want to get a plains. Draw for turn. Oath. Oh, what's going on there? Library. Look at this spirit. It's being opaque. Eyes closed, feeling something. They get in. We go to 7. Terminate their own Deuter. Okay, so we're back in the same pattern we were before. Would like. Gush is good. I would like to clean up this hand, so I actually am interested in scroll racking of getting Enlightened Tutor getting scroll rack here, because we just need to find Gaia's Blessing to put Pyre back in, that way we can actually get there. Otherwise, the inevitability is on their end if we can't actually close. A second green source finding Gigapede. We can also just start casting the Gigapede and just bolt us. No, they're going to go Crypt Angel. Following protection for white. This creature ends to return a blue or red creature from your graveyard to your hand. Okay, so this is the source to Plowshares tech that we can't beat. Sweet. I love me I am a man who loves angels, so I can get behind it. Threw away my Enlightened Tutor for no reason because this Oath of Druids is going to trigger. And I am going to take it. Throwing away cards. That's how we do it here on the Dirtles. Just got to throw away cards. Always be throwing away cards, fam. Yeah, and just find it anyway. Hell yeah. Fuck yeah. All right, put this back. Put this back. Scroll rack. Fortunately, they're down to 6, which is a clock that this Gigapede beats. But then we're not going to be able to win our match in 3 minutes. So, you know, it is going to be them winning on time, even if we do get there, if they don't have an answer to it. But, you know, so far they've had it all, and they do. So, what do we do? I think I'm going to scroll rack. Scroll rack for 4. Grimlavi. So we have to fight over this guy now. I think we're probably out of it. There's also the line right there where I'm supposed to put the guy's blessing back to flip down through the flip past the Gigapede to shuffle the deck, since I know it's on top of the deck and I don't want any of it. But we're gonna let T-Buns cross the finish line here with this Crypt Angel. I play this match so unbelievably horrible that I'm embarrassed that we're putting it out into the world forever. But they played exceptionally well and deserve to be able to log it forever. So we're gonna let T-Buns get there. Well played by you. Well botched all the way through by me. And we're gonna start this league 0-1. But so it goes, you know, so it goes. What did they just do? They just terminated their own thing because they're just going to play to burn? That's interesting. Why would you do that? Oh, they're just showing off. Yeah. Wait, no. I thought they were just going to bolt there. Just going Hellbent? Why would you remove your angel, my guy? Why would you remove your angel? Homie, why would you do that? Well, if they're going to give us the opportunity to cast more spells before we die, we're going to cast more spells. Grim Lavamancer. Bun says these were fun games. They sure were, man. If only I didn't pun so much, I could have given you better testing. But it seemed like all your stuff was working. I would like to use this ability. Thank you. Sylvan Library. Let's see what we got. Yes. Put this back. Put this back. Gush is pretty sweet if I had to. Islands. Sacrifice. Get rid of Crypt Angel. Pay 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Gush. Can't do any of that. Good games, dude. We're hopping right into round 2.
Eternal Dirtles is proud to be sponsored by Moxfield. Moxfield is the best Magic the Gathering deck building website on the internet. You can create, share, and find decks from Commander to Legacy, and even fan-supported formats like Pre-Modern and Old School. You can see all of our decks on our Moxfield. Follow the links below to stay tuned.
After that abysmal showing in round 1, I think since getting into Pre-Modern, I think my record is 4-98. I've yet to win a match at the local. I think I went 3-X at Sacred Torch. I went 2-X and 2XX at LobsterCon. But we're going to improve. And we opened 3 Gushes, so how can we possibly lose this one? There's just no way we can lose this one with 3 Gush. They just go Cabal Therapy. Yeah. There it is. We knew it was there. All right, so they're going to play a creature, and then it's going to be embarrassing, fam. Embarrassing. Now that they're on green, the Sylvan Library is probably not even all that safe. I'm supposed to just actually utilize one of these Gushes, even though it sets ourselves back into the Stone Age. All right. If we draw a counterspell here, we can protect. We did not. They'll get rid of the remaining 2 Gushes, but at least we have a full grip still, even though we are back to square one. Would have been a sweet pump fake to be take your Sylvan Library, clown, or take the Oath of Druids, but now they know about all this stuff, and the asymmetry of discard spells when one player has them and another doesn't, so one player just gets to play with perfect information for pretty much the entirety of the game. I know there's been discussion that black is the softest color in Pre-Modern, but black has the most powerful spells in Pre-Modern outside of these guys. But these things, as we saw, you can you build your deck in such a way where you just can Crypt Angel and then beat the shit. But against this stuff, the information asymmetry is just so powerful. It probably is the most powerful aspect of any of what the colors can do. In a world where you can actually leverage that information, in like the older in the like older formats like Legacy and stuff now, it's like the games are so fast that it's like you just use the information to make sure the coast is clear to kill somebody. Whereas what am I gonna discard? I think I just discard Sword Splashers, right? Like they do have Treetop Village, but like I don't know. Is that ever what the game is going to be about? Maybe I discard this Oath of Druids because they're never putting a creature into play. Let's discard the Oath because they know about Oath. They're not going to walk a creature into the Oath. And even if they do, they could just Cabal Therapy away. So this Oath is just going to be sitting dead. And the Source of Plowshare is unknown information. So at least there's something. At least there's that. And we also have an Enlightened Tutor, which is just another copy of Oath, should we ever want it. Call the Heart of Sweet. They're going to take Sylvan Library. What did they name? Oath of Druids. They named us. Oh, I discarded Oath, so they thought I had a second Oath. Huh. Didn't think I wasn't at that level. I wasn't there yet. I am going to compel action on their next turn, though. We're going to, now that they know about Enlightened Tutor, we're going to Enlightened Tutor. We're going to get the Phyrexian Furnace and start going to work on their graveyard a bit here. Nice little 2 mana, get rid of 2 cards we care about. This Curse Scroll has been sitting on the table. Another Cabal Therapy. I guess I fired off the thing too soon. No, they would have had a 3/3, but we would have just Source Plowshares it. Maybe I got too aggressive on this Phyrexian Furnace. Maybe I did what my opponent did last game where I was a little aggressive, but it did work. But now that we don't have Sylvan Library, we're not going to have a way to rebuild. Whereas like Furnace can actually hold check. You would just go Source Plowshares, deal with the other thing, and then like we're checking this part. And now this Furnace is in the graveyard and we would have to cycle it back in. Maybe all the changes I made were just bad. Don't make my changes. Just listen to SWB. Whatever he's doing is going to be correct. So I'm out here. We could have been Stifle Knotting. Opponent brought in Hibernations, which just wrecked Gigapede, and I could have just been Stifle Knotting instead. Fortunately, so far for us, they have been outplaying us, outcarding us, outsmarting us. But they did just mulligan by putting this Curse Scroll into play on turn 1. So they've just been playing a card down all game, even though there's the some amount of tension build here. Now they've got multiple mana sinks. They know about Armageddon, so I imagine that they're going to want to deal with that. But they have a Cabal Therapy to do so, so it's not like this is ever actually going to get fired off. Maybe if we just keep hitting land drops, we can just get to a point where we just hard cast our Ancestor Chosen. Like, that's a possibility if they don't kill us because they are taking turns just continuing to outplay us. If they outplay me for 4 more turns, we can maybe Herp Derp across the finish line. And by across the finish line, I mean put a 4/4 into play. That gains us some life. Take that. I think internally, one of the problems that I have with any format is like I can see puzzle pieces and I want to put puzzle pieces together. And then part of that is feeling like I've discovered the puzzle pieces in the way that they can go together in ways that are just worse than whatever the best thing already is. And so even though something is cool and can be sweet when the puzzle pieces come together and the logic is there, it doesn't actually amount to success. It actually amounts to making things that would have been successful worse. So I'm just taking something that is successful. It's like the notion of, hey, look at this deck list that has gone 11-0 crushing locals in the hands of the dude who has done nothing but win for the last 20 years. What if I take that deck list that has not dropped a match and just change it? And that sounds like crazy when you're getting bodied in games like this where players are just outplaying you. Like, it sounds like insane. Our opponent wasn't playing land, so they are going to be able to follow up here, but I'm just, what are we doing? They have a Curse Scroll. We're not getting it. I don't know. Is it getting any better? This is what I mean, right? Like, I can't answer these questions. So it's like, what am I even trying to do? And I hope that I am, if anything, representative for you to not do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Should I discard a Swords or an Ancestor Chosen? Last time I discarded Ancestor Chosen, it didn't work out well for us. They have a Cabal Therapy. Do we commit to the bit? Nah, it's fine. It's fine. We're never casting our 7-drop. Man, should have kept it. Should have kept that Ancestor Chosen. See, that's the thing. I want to be the Ancestor Chosen. Like, I want to build decks and then be the Ancestor Chosen, but really I'm just one of the Ancestors on the outside. Wow. Sometimes we just top deck the good shit. We didn't come here to not pay life. I'm paying 8. We're drawing cards. Gush is hot, but we don't have 2 islands at the moment. We already have a rack. They didn't even want a coin flip there. They were like, they could coin flip, not even interested. All right, we're holding up counterspell. So again, we're in this holding pattern, which is where we want to be. Like, this is exactly the spot where the deck wants to be. I'm going to turn a counterspell face up here. I don't know if they're on, like, a drain effect. And I have a Switch to Plowshares to clean this up, even though it's a 2-for-1. But being at 1 life, I'd rather not just go entirely shields down against something with counterspells in hand, because that would be embarrassing. Even though I'm thoroughly embarrassed already. Wall of Blossoms. Well, that doesn't kill me. Now, if they want to sack it to Cabal Therapy to name these counterspells that are turned face up, but maybe because I didn't fight over this, it's good, because now we have 2 threats that we need to deal with, so I probably should have. Never didn't have it. We don't have a second white source, so that's a problem. We're dying. We're gonna be deaded. Well, let's see if they activate it. What else are they doing, though? So once again, I shouldn't have paid 8, but I don't regret a thing. Not a single thing do I regret. Okay. Boarding in these guys. Once again, I don't like foil. I also don't like counterspell in these matchups that are just trying to grind down to nothing. I do want Funeral Pyres because they are like the Cabal Therapy Call of the Herd deck. Let's check their graveyard where they're getting all of their advantage from. What don't we like? Shard Phoenix is... What's it doing? It's just catching the Ravenous Rats. It's not doing anything else. Gigapede against rats is kind of bad. Maybe this Gigapede thing is just not it. As we're running into the 1 toughness just saying it, maybe we just want more Ancestral Chosen, or really what we want is a Chroma. If this were a Chroma, it'd be sweet. Should probably just be playing a Chroma. What if we just Ancestral Chosen? Like, what are they doing against that? We just have to make sure that we don't get caught by... We don't get caught by graveyard hate after they remove it from the board. Is that it? We're attacking. We're going to attack in. Maybe that's what we do. We're just attacking in. All right, maybe we'll bring in the Shard Phoenix just so we have an actual... We'll leave the Shard Phoenix in rather than check that. What don't we want? I really don't. I mean, they are bringing in all of their... They certainly are going to be bringing in their naturalizers and stuff, so we want to overload that with the Oath of Druids. Thinking Light and Tutor's probably the softest, because it's not like there's one critical thing that I'm going to always want. And it goes down a card. All right, so we can't keep 5 lands, 2 spells without green mana, so it's really 5 lands, 1 spell. This is the exact same hand. Your deck can mulligan pretty well when you're like very low to the ground as a Gush deck. So they're going to go turn 1 Duress, take a Gush. Or they'll lead on Treetop Village. That's nice. I'm also realizing that, like, one thing that I wasn't thinking about with the Funeral Pyre pivot is just being the Funeral Pyre control deck where this is our win condition. You know? I'm playing this out because even though I want to use this to get our white source and this to get our green source, it does represent another island so we can Gush again. Like, follow-up Gush. Sylvan Library of Your Own, you say. That's okay. I left stuff in to deal with that. Do I need to care about it now? I don't think so. What are our best draws here? Now that they've compelled some action, it's Disenchant, Seal of Cleansing. I would love to find a Scroll Rack. An Oath of Druids is really live. No, but we're not using the mana for anything, and if we untap... Okay, I just turned a Gush face up for them, but if we drew Oath of Druids, that would have been not as good. Let's make them think Counterspell. Maybe they'll think that I actually was like a next level, and I'm like fading Gush. That way, when they Cabal Therapy, they name Gush instead of Counterspell, and then when they try and naturalize the other Druids, we would have Counterspell. Maybe they'll think that we like actually were good and like leveled them up that way in a way that like we would have had to have thought about before, and then like actually implemented in a way that wasn't like super obvious. Like, I want to be at the level where somebody would give me enough respect to think that that's something that's in my range. Instead of my range being like non-existent, my range would be fading Gush to make Cabal Therapy seem like a counterspell. It should name counterspell name Gush instead of counterspell. Ugh. Okay. They play Bloodzaymire, 4 cards in hand. I'm gonna Gush now because an Armageddon would be sweet. Instead, I'm just gonna use none of my mana. Yes. They have a Cursed Scroll. We're both playing scrolls. Well, they're playing scrolls, I'm playing racks. There's the argument that if Get-In was good then Get-In would be good now, and I should be looking for the Get-In in the top 2 cards, which, you know, is narrow. But, especially since we can rebuild with the Mox Diamond. But there's no follow-up. I don't actually have a follow-up for why I wouldn't do that, other than that it feels, my intuition is such that it feels like a bit aggressive. Yeah, I just targeted their graveyard instead of my graveyard to make the blocker. Just get it all on camera. Get it all on camera. All of it. Get it all on camera, fam. So his Ancestors Chosen on top of the deck. We're in position now where, because we've gushed multiple times, Scroll Rack is really hot. They're going to discard it this turn, and then we're going to be without nothing, drawing this Ancestors Chosen, taking 3, and then be entirely set back again. I think once the discard spell happens, though, I'm just going to save ourselves some time, because the way that we're getting back into this game is just not happening. Oop. Cabal Therapy, I'll let them name the correct thing, though. No, Swords to Plowshares. They're guaranteeing themselves value, but it was not the correct name. But they're probably sitting on another Naturalize. They've been librarying for a while. Still got 4 cards in hand. Oh, they also can just name it now. So Flashback, Cabal Therapy, I'll concede. If they do it, they actually got to do it. I'm not going to do it preemptively, but they got to do it. Once they do it, we're conceding. And then we're going to be 0-2. Such is life. So we're playing against Zen Burns in round 3. I'm keeping this hand that's just going to turn 1 Guy's Blessing off a Mox Diamond against Rogue Elephant. So it actually looks like we're just going to Swords to Plowshares this thing and then go on from there. All right, so they're going all in here. Not going to waste time on that. I'll sit on a counterspell now that we drew it, and we're only facing a 1-3. I'd like to catch the Rancor. I'm going to do this because Guy's Blessing putting 2 Swords to Plowshares back in, if we draw land while holding up counterspell, is going to be nice. I think what I've found for the most part is that I do care very much about velocity, which is something that Sylvan Library doesn't provide as well as I'd like. And which might be why I typically will gravitate towards Intuition Piles, because Intuition Piles just offer so much selection and velocity, and it also allows the instant speed shuffle, which I really appreciate, off of flipping 2 Guy's Blessings. It might be why I gravitate towards that, because I just like being able to churn. It's my inclination is to churn. Okay, I think Moto is stalling here because I am targeting myself. Yeah, it's just stalling out. Okay, we'll give it a second. One thing about Moto, the game can stall, but the clocks do not. Your chess clock goes even if you're not the problem. Okay. So we like Flooded Strand, but I don't think I want to draw the other 2, so I'm going to shuffle this and pass. So they spent 3 mana to deal me a damage? Is that what I'm seeing? They have 1 card. We have Oath of Druids. All of their creatures survive Shard Phoenix, so it's not very good here. I think I'm just leaning on Ancestors Chosen. I'm also trying to think, what would they have? Is there anything that they have that I would care to disenchant? They must post board. I don't know the decks well enough to know for sure. Furnace is probably worse than just another blocker. So we mulligan that first hand because it didn't do anything. This hand has a Swords to Plowshares for this pouncing Jaguar after they pay Echo. So this Sky Shroud Elite's never going to get turned on. I'm not playing any non-basics in my deck. Just because of the cuts that I made. I'm a genius. So this Funeral Pyre is going to engage this Tormod's Crypt, which I was thinking about doing in response, but then decided not to, because that's not what the fight is about at the moment with this Hidden Gibbons. But I was thinking this turns on the Hidden Gibbons. Swords to Plowshares catch the Hidden Gibbons. Funeral Pyre will catch the Sky Shrouded Plants on a combat. This is going to be real nice. But if they fire off the Tormod's Crypt, that's also fine, because that means that the game plan will be back on, and they're down to 1 card. I don't want that Ancestors Chosen right now, so I am going to ship this, even though I want that Disenchant. We'll pass. Well, we get the best of it anyway. I think we okay to take this hit, go to 13. If we draw a mana source, if we draw a land, we can get additional white, so we can disenchant this. In response, they do this. In response, we Funeral Pyre to block, and then take 1. Hidden Gibbons becomes a creature, and then we get to Swords to Plowshares it on the back end. Or we can just draw Oath, make it easy. Gosh. Gosh, ain't it? Okay. We'll still do that line then. They go to combat. We go to Disenchant. We Funeral Pyre a Flooded Strand. We go to block. If an opponent goes to an island and you control forest, you may play the spell without paying its mana cost. Wow, they just get a Rushwood Legate? Rushwood Legate. I get a Rushwood Legate. Island. Bang. Too easy. Way too easy. And just like that, we're in. Didn't need to do that now. If I get blown out by something, I would have deserved it. Not going to use that mana. Unfortunate. So if I knew about Rushwood Legate, I would have kept in the Shard Phoenix. I would have kept in the Phoenix for the Legate had I known. All right, so we're probably just going to get rushed here. Going to get to the point where an Oath of Druids would be too slow. I'm going to gush because Scroll Rock would be forking lit. So now Oath of Druids is deterministically too slow, so I'm going to need a removal spell, which would be exactly Swords to Plowshares or a land. We're done. Let's begin the sideboarding. So now I know that we do want the Shardy Kabardis. Armageddon seems not great against this deck, so we're not going to play that game. One could argue that Sylvan Library is also not very good against the deck that's like beating down, but what would be better? What would be better? Some more Funeral Pyres? Maybe the one Armageddon to seal the deal? My mapping ain't very good, I'll tell you that. I don't know what I'm doing on the mapping on that end for mono green with the sideboard build that I put in place. You can't use a sideboard guide when you switch the sideboard, you know what I mean? So they play the Scavenger Folk. I didn't Swords to Plowshares, so I was like, I'll do it when we need to, and then immediately draw. Thing that would have been nice to slam on turn 2, but here we are. Why would you Giant Growth now? Am I about to get blown out by something? Sure seems like it. No, they're just going to give me a 2-for-1. Okay. Shard Phoenix looking hot. Look at this. Look at this against this. That ain't cool, bro. Full boat in it. With them only having mana ducks at 19, I just don't feel the need to like actually take any meaningful action yet. I'm happy to draw some of the stuff that's on top of the deck until they show me otherwise. 2/2 might be enough. Okay, once they're ahead on board, I'm no longer interested in counterspell. That was a hell of a turn. So either that was a glitch or Oath of Druids does always go on the stack and they're just like passing through it. I'm not sure. Get in the comments, let me know. If you're still here after the 2 abysmal matches I played before this, get in the comments and tell me if Oath of Druids actually does do what I think it does, as I've always thought that it did, even though now it does not seem to. Tranquil Domain, destroy all non-aura enchantments. Okay, so they're going to attack for 6. I'm going to Funeral Pyre and take out a body. It's also quite good. So we're going to gush with Scroll Rack. We're on the Scroll Rack gush plan. We're going to Swords one of their 2/2s and Pyre one of their elves, the Finhorde elf. Go to 6. And then we have gush action with Scroll Rack. Was that the cleanest way to do things? Absolutely not. Did it pay off anyway? Oh, ho, ho, hell yeah. Oh, ho, hell yeah, it did. I'm bad at this, man. I'm bad at this game. I don't know what to tell you. But we got Coffee, we got Enlightened Tutor, we got Scroll Rack. They're a bunch of forests. We're doing it. We're doing things. We might be on the board, finally, against the Mono Forest creature deck with our Oath of Druids. We might have finally gotten there despite everything I'm doing to keep that from happening. Somehow, some way, we've overcome the odds and beat the creature deck that Stone Rains itself. What's cool now is I get to Funeral Pyre to get the Ancestors chosen and then nuke the board. It's kind of cool. It's kind of hot. It's kind of cool. Kind of cool, kind of hot. Why would you attack me, bro? So, Funeral Pyre back on, Ancestors chosen. Gaia's Blessing will trigger, they'll crack it. So they could crack it so I don't gain life. Will they see the 0 mana line? There it is. All right, we're going to go to 4, so we're dead to pump spells still. Man, what have I done? What have I done? Root Maze is sick tech for these decks. Why would they play that after? I'd be dead next turn if you just played it before. I'm not sure. I would be dead this turn if they had just played this pre-combat last turn. So I'm confused as to why they did that. They could have just put me into the 03 bracket. Guess that didn't matter. I should have saved it for Scroll Rock. I'm an idiot. Or I could just top deck like a clown. Why would I wait? Oh, it doesn't do it to creatures with flying. Without flying. It's got flying, so it wouldn't have mattered. So I just have to... I shouldn't have even cast it. Know what your cards do. That's just not something that's come up for me. I deserve to lose that one. Whew. 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 All right, fam, I'm giving you what am I giving you? A here's what not to do. I'm giving you a here's what not to do. Here's what not to do unless your goal is to lose every match that you play. Because once that's your goal, to lose every match, I got you, fam. That. If you want to do nothing but lose, boy, do I have deck lists for you. Man, you got to admit, though, we've been losing in sweet ways, right? Like casting a Shard Phoenix and sacking it to not do anything, or changing an entire sideboard of a deck that hasn't dropped a match. Or what was the other stuff that I did? I don't know. These aren't even bad beats. These are self-inflicted beats.
All right, let's get on the board. We're going to play against Hajibute.
Hajibute, what up, Boot? Hajibute. Won the die roll. We're going to keep this hand. Keep against Hajibute. I don't know what we're against, but I would like to develop my manas. We're going to assume that Source Plowshares has text because that's what we signed up for. And if not, we'll just scroll rack. Going to be mana efficient. Don't know what we need because we hit our land drop, so I don't know what we need to move on. So I'm doing it this way. But I also don't want to take any more damage. I'm off of taking damage. Now that you're showing me that you're blue too, I'm off of it. Off of the damage taking. Show me a counterspell, I don't care. Play this, get my shuffle game on. Play a furnace. We're casting spells. I was tapped out. If they had... Okay, they're just doing... Just going on the burn plan. This is blue-red burn ski. So hopefully this Mox Diamond gets in. We can discard this. I'm going to portend here. Shuffle that away. Pass turn. Next turn, we'll be able to Shard Phoenix down this Lavamancer and hold down the fort against their creatures. What is it here that I won't be able to beat? It is a Prophetic Bolt. Put me down to 4. People like Prophetic Bolt in this league, huh? Presumably they'll have a removal spell that'll take down this Phoenix, and then they'll just chunk in for the win. Okay, so they can't Lavamancer me unless they... I mean, they could go spell, burn, because I'm tapped. Because I'm tapped out, they do have a bunch of avenues to kill, should they so choose. So I'm blocking that way. There's no shenanigans that I wouldn't otherwise know about, but yeah, I'll sack and wreck this stuff. Crisp little 2-for-1. Let's gush. Pretty good. Playing out this Mox Diamond so I can hold up counterspell. Wow, I actually sequenced something correctly. Who knew? Who knew that I was capable? Who knew that I could do it? We got there. We won a match. Now, was that game 1? I think they just conceded the match. I think they just conceded the whole match after 1 game. But that means that we're on the board, fam. Oh, we take that. All right. Pulse you. We'll keep an island portent hand as per always. Who are we if we don't believe in the power of portent? Okay, maybe we shouldn't believe in the power of portent. Maybe we should stop. Maybe we should stop doing that. Maybe no more power of portent. Never didn't have it, actually. Always believe in the power of the portent. You gotta believe. If you don't believe, what are you doing? Always be believing. Crystal Vein. Okay. Chromatic Sphere. Got it. What do we do against that? What do we do against that? Have to assume they're not going to put in a creature. So maybe we're supposed to Oath anyway. Because then at least we're using mana. So this is one of those instances where if this was the Gemstone Mine, this counterspell like we talked about in the opener would have been able to hit this. If this was the Treva's Ruin, it wouldn't. So we don't really know, but there is a chance that this was the actual Windswept Teeth. But if it was the Gemstone Mine, we would have been able to fight over this and then actually been in this game as opposed to getting hymned. So did they have turn 3... They had turn 2 defense grid into turn 3 kill. Off no selection. Okay. Well, I'm happy it's going to go fast. Because that was horseshit. That was absolute de facto horseshit. No doubt about that one. Absolute, unabashed horseshit. Great. Back in. Pulse you with the old turn 3 kill with backup. Well done. Well done. I should be doing stuff like that. Why don't we just do stuff like that instead of what we're doing here? We always keep the portent hand. We're always here for the portenting. But we're not here for the portent me's anymore. We're here for the portent use. You're going to shuffle away that Tinker and that defense grid. Gemstone Mine. Okay, Lotus Petal helps with the fast starts, but okay, so I guess they could just kill. They're mana off. We have a disenchant for that. You're going to pay 8 in the blind. Maybe not, because we don't want more land. We do want the scroll rack action, but we don't want more land. I'm going to put back this. I want to get the shuffle and the island, but we got to ensure the white source. I'm going to foe and a null. I think I'm going to play around a null. Now they just got the grid. The grid and the port. Paying 8. We never didn't pay 8. I'm going to keep telling them the story of a null. The story of a null is tried and true. I'm going to hold some tension. Gush. Live turn. Gush. Diamond. That'll do it.
All right, so the Gush get in. was the gimmick. The gush getting gimmick.
All right. What do we do now? What do we do now? What is the line now? He says inquisitively. I think it's just the same line. I think it's the same. I think we just run it back. All right, do we keep this hand with Meddling Mage in it? I think so. They love defense grid. Altar is in. I guess this card doesn't do anything. Like, now that I'm thinking about what they do, unless they have like a pivot that I'm unaware of, but obviously we're going to name Tinks. They've got action. Unclear as to what it is. Maybe they were trying to tinker even though I just named tinker. No, they're trying to impulse. Trying to impulse. Aiming, impulsing. Hit him down to 12. His counterspell is checked right now, but we're scroll rack, and we're going to be able to flip this whole hand back, which is great, because I don't want any of these cards. Scroll rack is cracked. I think the 2 damage is the most important part while they have Ancient Tomb. Now they have double Ancient Tomb, most definitely. So we're going to flip our whole hand here. We love that. We're going to put back this. Keep the guy's blessing. Okay, don't want to float. Just going to let the Tangle Wire resolve. Put him to 6. Play Island. Should have fetched instead, actually. Play a Meddling Mage. Phyrexian Devour. With Meddling Mages now on their key things, I'm not sure what the pivot plan could be. And we get there. We're on the board. Hell yeah. All right. So we finished this league 2 and 3. Here's what I can say about what I did. Don't do anything of what I did. Listen to SWB. Thank you for watching this league with Parfait here on Eternal Durdles. If you would like to write for Eternal Durdles, you can head over to Discord and message me. I'm at ForceofPhil. We can write about anything that you would like to write about. Pretty much what you do is you write an article in a Google Doc, you share it with me, I'll take care of the edit and the build, and then we'll publish you. Whatever it is that you'd like to talk about in relation to pre-modern at all, whether it's a deck tech, a tournament report, an argument for what should be unbanned, what cards you think are underplayed, what cards you think are overplayed, what in new additions to different decks that you would like to do, other things that you think I shouldn't do when I try and record next time. That is open to all of you out there, and I hope you partake. Also, if you want to support us, head over to patreon.com/eternaldurdles, where we put out as much content as we can these days. We've also started a new channel for the game Sorcery, which I highly recommend. As anybody who likes pre-modern, Sorcery is a new game that clearly takes inspiration from Magic and is very good. And if you want to learn about that, I'm getting the education on it from Zach and the other channels, so that's a lot of fun, and highly recommend. And until next time, this is ForceofPhil. Thank you for watching.
Hey, if you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button. It grows the legacy content ecosystem we all love by relaying to the platform that you are part of our passionate community.
And to go even further, click the links for subscription or to support directly via Patreon to help us create more content for you. Patreon supporters get 4 exclusive extra episodes per month. If you're listening on an audio platform, head over to patreon.com/eternaldurdles.
Thanks so much for your support.
We'll see you in the next one.